Welcome. It's time to call to order the Guthrie Public Schools Board of Education regular monthly meeting, October 8th, 2018. Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Watts. Smedley.
Here.
Pearson.
Here.
Salee.
Here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join us for a moment of silence. Thank you. Agenda item 6, comments to the board by citizens registered to speak to the board.
We have none, Mr. President.
Comments by other board members? Okay. Agenda item 7 is the superintendent's report.
Okay, I've got a few short items. Completed another successful homecoming full house at Gelsma, and I'm not sure, but I think it was the best attendance I've seen by the alumni in my time in Guthrie. A lot of them here. Congratulations to the Lady J softball team. They qualified for the state tournament. They're going to play Piedmont at 11 a.m. on Thursday in Shawnee. Football team is now 6-0, and we host undefeated Carl Albert this Friday with kickoff set for 7 o'clock at the Rock. Couple things with regard to construction. Pleased to report that at Charter Oak, they over the weekend finished the tile work in the cafeteria. They are progressing on the stage. I think they were going to hopefully have that done by today or tomorrow, and we're going to let that tile cure for a few days, and then get some wax on it. Make sure that everything is got a few more things to work out in the kitchen, and then be ready to open the cafeteria. And they're also moving toward getting things working closely getting things going in the gym as well, getting ready for the wood floor work and those kinds of things. So we're making progress down there, and things have been going as smooth as can be expected. Also, you may notice the new windows that are going in at the junior high, and they've started in the annex, and they're moving. They weren't on site today, but they are, I'm sure because of the weather, but they're progressing with that as well. Finally, a bit of sad news. Claire Pearsall, who was a former teacher at Guthrie Junior High, her son was involved in an auto accident. He was a 2-year-old with I believe, a grandparent over the weekend or late last week in Edmond, and the son sadly did not make it. So thoughts and prayers go out to the family. That's my report.
Thank you. Agenda item 8 is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 9A, discussion and possible action regarding the 2018 to 2019 school budget.
Okay, I believe Ms. Chappell has a presentation. I think you have a hard copy here, and then you also have the budget that she has prepared. And we'll get everything warmed up here and turn it over to Michelle.
Good evening. Mr. President, board members, Dr. Simpson, and everyone here, I present to you our 2018-19 board adopted operating budget. In a second.
There you go.
All right. So I'd first like to overview and just say that this year we are changing our gears with the incorporation of neighborhood schools, and that expenses have been allocated fundamentally surrounding our student counts by sites, as well as teacher support, staff pay, raises, the incorporation of Charter Oak, and the need of additional SROs. And so with that, we know that our budget is structured around the estimate of needs that is presented to us from our auditors, Putnam and Company, and approved by the Logan County Excise Board. And with that, they have given us our estimate of needs for this year. In the general fund, we are estimated to have our revenues at $25.3 million, which is an increase of $2.7 million from last fiscal year, which is roughly about 12% increase. And in our building fund, they have estimated $1.4 million, which is an increase of $200 from last fiscal year, which is roughly about 15% increase. In our child nutrition fund, the estimate is $1.49 million. However, that is down roughly 8% this year. As you know, we all know that we experienced the walkout last year, so their revenues were a little short, but we are definitely going to work with our food service management company to make sure that those revenues are captured this year. In our school age care fund, it remains the same at $75,619. And finally, in our sinking fund, our millage levy has increased by 1.65 to 14.12 for this fiscal year. Our revenue by sources, at the end of 2017-18, it only changed by 2%. Our state sources are still 62% of our revenue, and our local sources increased 2%. Last year was 24% and 64%. And so federal is still at 8% and county sources 4%. Our budget guidelines by fund or general fund. So normally in the general fund, our board policy states that we are to carry a 12% fund balance, and I'm happy to report that as of June 30th, 2018, our fund balance held at a 12% balance of $2.9 million, and that is an increase of $507,000 from June 30th, 2017. Our initial state aid revenue for FY 18-19 is $1.7 million more than we actually collected in FY 17-18, and we know that that's all basically due to the increase for the teacher pay raise. That revenue is included in the stream. Our midterm allocations in December will result in a decrease in revenue, and that will be basically due to our chargeables. As you know, the more local funds we receive, the less state funds we receive. But we have accounted for that loss in our revenue estimates for this fiscal year. The increased net assessed valuation, or NAV, of our property in FY 18 resulted in an additional 5.01 growth for last year, and that equates in dollars as $153 million versus last year at $145 million. And so again, the revenue estimates that we'll see on the next couple of slides have captured the loss of income for our chargeables. So I just wanted to give you an overview of the last 5 years analysis on our net assessed valuation. In FY 15, our property was evaluated at $126,637, and so you can see over the last 5 years we've consistently had growth in Logan County, and we're now at $153 million. So the net assessed valuation continues to grow at a steady pace, and so if you took that 126 from FY 15 to FY 19, 153, that's roughly 20% growth over 5 years. In our general fund, our revenue analysis. In FY 17, we're looking at a 3-year picture here. So if you're looking at the column that says actual in FY 17, Our local sources of revenue were $5 million. And in FY '18, at the end of that year, they were $5.3 million, so we had an increase of $354,000. We are projecting for FY '18-19, $5.3 million. Although we collected 5.386 of actual, if you look at our projection for 2017-18, it was $5,032,000. So we have increased that projection by $300 million for this year. In our intermediate sources, the same there. Actual 2016-17. I know I have a little point here.
Push it in the middle.
In a minute, thank you. Okay, so there we go. 2016-17, 897,000 was the actual. In 17-18, actual 913. But as you see, we have always projected 875, so we're just going to stay steadfast at 875,000. And then in our state sources, our next page, our actual 2016-17 state sources of revenues, 12.5 million. Our actual in FY17 was 13.196, and we are projecting 14.5 for FY18-19. And then in the same scenario with the federal funds, 1.6 million in FY17, and FY18 it was 1.56. So we did take a little dip there in federal funds last year, but we are back on board for this year at 1.9. We have received our allocation already, so we know that these numbers are almost true to form, that $950,000 has been allocated for Title I, and then we've received some additional funds this year that we normally don't receive, which is Title IV, and our Title II has increased $148,000 from $1,400 last year. And so with all of that being said, it is estimated that our revenue for this fiscal year will be $25.7 million, with our expenditures of $23.2 million, leaving a fund balance of $2.5 million.
Why is there such an increase in the Title II money versus last year to this year, from $1,400 to $148,000?
Because the Title II funds were always around $112,000, so that figure is incorrect.
That 1,400
You transfer it over to Title I to help cover salaries, and so I don't know if that's what you were looking at on the transfer, but
It's a transfer.
it's a.
So that 1,400 is not an actual figure?
The 1,400 is an actual figure. That is what came in last year, but for this year, the allocation forms they've given us for this year shows a transfer of $140,000 that will be in Title II.
Okay, that still didn't make sense to me though, but we can talk about it later.
Okay, I can show you the allocation sheets where it shows the one point.
Okay, I understand you transferring, but I just didn't understand. You got allocation of 1,400 last year, and you got confirmation of 148,000 this year.
Well, she's able to transfer the funds in Title I, and so it was projected, where am I? Okay, so the actual was 1.4. As you see in the projected column, we projected that we would receive 100,000. However, we didn't receive the 100,000, so it shows a negative 98,000 there. But for this year, the allocation forms do show that 148,000 will come in Title II.
Am I just not getting it, or do y'all understand it?
Are you asking why more money's there?
Yeah. Yeah,
We just didn't get it. Basically, we always have that amount, and then we go in there. As far as the 1,400, I'm not really sure where that's coming from, because we also, between Title I and II each year, have around $56,000 in carryover.
But the money's allocated as Title II, and then we transfer it, but what we're showing right here is before the transfer.
Right.
The
Yes,
one-
148 is before the transfer.
But it's still 48,000 more
Yeah.
than last year.
Right.
It is.
And why is that?
I don't file the federal forms to know why. All I do is receive the allocation forms from the state by project code, and it tells me exactly how much money that the district is going to receive, and so the
But
form.
the 100,000 was a projection, not the actual. The
Exactly.
actual is after, on the 1,400 was after we transferred
Yeah.
the money.
So
So we don't really see the actual allocation from last year because it's post-transfer, what was listed.
Okay, so really.
that help?
Yes, so really
Okay.
we should have seen what actually came in before the transfer, but we're seeing after the transfer figure.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And so in our revenue sources by category, we see listed here in FY 18-19 projected in the first column, our state sources, local sources, followed by F, and then federal sources. And so we see for a 3-year period that the revenues have increased. Again, just from federal sources in that FY 17-18 year, we took a little dip there, but otherwise, the rest of the revenues have grown.
One thing that I want to point out here, this is a trend, if you were to break this out further over time, the trend of us building up our local sources, remember, we've talked about this a lot, that's healthy for our district, and that is a good sign for our district. That takes the burden away from state sources, which in times of budget crisis, that's where the state goes and grabs that money and brings it back when we've already budgeted. And the local sources don't go away. We still get those. And so the more we can be reliant on local revenue, the safer we are in times of financial crisis in the state. And we have had a steady progression of that as we've grown our net assessed value. And the difference in state sources from last year to this year is essentially, it's hard to compare those apples to apples because a lot of that is the teacher pay raise. In fact, the most of it.
So this brings us to our operating budget by fund. In our general fund, as I mentioned, we have estimated that our expenses will be $23.287 million, and we have those listed there by function, as well as the building fund, $634,000. In our child nutrition fund, $1.42 million. The student fund, our debt service payment for this fiscal year is going to be $1.526, and then we have $65,000 in our insurance fund.
Michelle, I have a quick question.
Yes.
And I actually should have asked it back on one of your earlier slides. On the child nutrition program, doesn't our contract with them, we have to have a certain level of income
We have
committed
to
to them?
We have to offer them a certain amount of days, and our original contract was 173 days, and so we're at 167 days this fiscal year, so we are negotiating and we're working with those figures.
So with the, I'm guessing the end of the year, last year, whenever we had the days that were closed down, how are we making that up? Is it just like a dollar value, or?
The dollar value was $11,415.
Okay. Thank you.
In our general fund, and this slide I have to show here that our fixed cost in last year's fiscal year was 92.61%. You see that here. And so we technically only had 7.39% of discretionary funds to use for the district. We have estimated that this year 95.88% will be a fixed cost, and we have 4% as discretionary funds to use for our site budgets, textbooks, transportation, what have you. Now, the difference between these two, why that's so major there, 7.39 to 4.12, is that in the last fiscal year, this number here encompasses $451,000 for our new buses that will not be in this fiscal year. At the $575,000.
Michelle, you might point at that screen because the board members can't see. Some of them can't see.
Okay, so, I'm sorry. We see that $939,000 decreased down to $575,000 here, and that difference is due to, we will not be purchasing the transportation buses this year. So. FY17 actual cost, $20.7 million, and again, there's your same $23.2 million budgeted or projected for FY18-19. So I just want to mention that on the building fund, again, we know that this is an expense fund for repairs throughout the district. Funds are derived from our proceeds of Mills Building Fund levy, and that FY18-19, our carry forward revenues are $773,186, which is an increase of approximately $93,000 from year-end FY17-18. So that building fund balance continues to grow. Our desire is repairs to and so with that concludes my.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Anyone have any questions of Michelle?
Thank you.
So we need a motion to approve. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the 2018-2019 school budget?
I make a motion that we approve the 2018-2019 school budget.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis. Yes. Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Sully.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 9B, recommendation, consideration, action upon Guthrie Junior High Health Fair for 7th grade students, November 13th through the 15th, or November 13th and 15th, 2018.
Page 100 in your packet, I believe, has a description of the events. Yes, it does. And this is something that we bring to you on an annual basis that we've done at the junior high for quite a while. Mr. Ogle can answer any questions. Recommend approval.
I make a motion that we approve the Guthrie Junior High Health Fair for 7th grade students, November 13th and 15th of 2018.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Sully.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 9C, recommendation, consideration, and action to approve the transcription of math and science credit options taught at Meridian Technology Center.
This is an item that we bring to the board annually. We are required to have board approval of this every year, and it's for students that are taking courses at Meridian, and also pair that with a math course so that they can meet their credit requirement, and recommend approval.
I make a motion that we approve the transcription of math and science credit options taught at Meridian Technology Center.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Sully.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 9D, recommendation, consideration, and action upon revision to District Policy C-27, which is administration of federal programs.
This is on pages 110 through 117 of your packet. They are redlined, and there are some minor changes, and our attorney wanted us to add the item on page 8 of the change, which is page 117 of your packet. It's in the red. Recommend approval.
I make a motion that we approve the revision to District Policy C-27, Administration of Federal Programs.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Sully.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 9E, recommendation, consideration, and action upon revision to District Policy D-21, the family and medical leave.
This is a recommendation from our attorney. The greatest change in this, most of it is technical, other than one paragraph that's being added on page 121 of your packet, page 4 of the policy and recommend approval.
I move that we approve the revisions to District Policy D21, Family and Medical Leave.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 9F, recommendation, consideration, and action upon revision to District Policy F13, Administration of Medicine to Students.
You'll find this on page 123 of your packet through 133. This is the result of legislation last legislative session that classifies us to be required to obtain parental permission to administer sunscreen to students. And so we've taken a 2-page policy, or no, 4-page policy and completely scrapped it, and we've the new policy recommended by our attorneys follows on pages 6 through 11 of page 128.
I move that we approve the revised District Policy F13, Administration of Medicine to Students.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 9G, recommendation, consideration, action upon revision to District Policy F18, Child Abuse, Neglect, Exploitation, and Trafficking, Reporting and Investigation revised.
This is another policy that we are completely revising based on advice of our attorneys. Some of the wording in the previous policy was still operative, but they recommend much greater explanations, so it has taken a 2-page policy and turned it into a 9-page policy. And you can see the red additions to it, as many of the items that we would be reporting to about our students are now defined. I recommend approval.
I make a motion that we approve district policy, the revision to district policy F18, child abuse, neglect, exploitation, and trafficking, reporting and investigation revised.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 9H, recommendation, consideration, and action upon revision to District Policy G13, distribution of surveys.
This is something that we have talked about at times as with the board. Want to recommend to the board that we no longer take surveys that are targeted towards staff members through board approval process, but keep it there for students. So the approval process for distribution of a survey to a staff member will come through my office.
I move we approve the revision to District Policy G13, Distribution of Surveys.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Abstain.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
4 ayes, 1 abstention.
Agenda item 9I, recommendation, consideration, action upon the following, or upon allowing formation of a STEM club at Guthrie High School.
This is a request from Mr. LeGrand, and it will involves a partnership with Langston University. And Mr. LeGrand and Mr. Ogler are both present tonight to answer any questions you might have. Recommend approval.
I make a motion that we approve the allowing of formation of STEM club at Guthrie High School.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett
I
Johnson.
want the discussion. I wanted
Oh, sorry.
Chris to explain it more. It sounded really interesting to me. I just wanted a little detail. It sounded kind of neat about what you're going to do with the partnering in Langston and all that stuff.
A few years ago, we actually started a robotics club, and it was nice. We had some
real good participation, and then enrollment went up, and so the teacher that was teaching it had to teach another section of math, and so we had to cut off the robotics class. We got a lot of interest from kids, and there's one of our alumni that works at Langston University, Marcio White, and he's very involved in the aeronautics portion and rocketry and launching things like that. And he has been able to secure some money, and he wants to partner with us and some surrounding school districts, Crescent, Boyle, I think he believe Cashion, and he's going to be able to purchase some equipment so that we can get basically the guts of the robot that you have to construct for the competition. And that stuff's about $3,000 or $4,000, and they're offering to support us with that money so that we can get that going. And they're also going to do some electronics and some bridge building, and so those kits and those things that are required to construct those types of things get rather expensive, and they're going to help us with the funding. And we're going to basically meet before after school and put that stuff together and enter competitions.
This sounds really good. Just tell him thank you for thinking of us. I think it'll be good for our school.
Any other discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 9J, recommendation, consideration, action to authorize the superintendent to proceed with the memorandum of understanding for the K-20 Gear Up for the Future grant.
Page 147 through 154 is a description of the grant. And then Friday afternoon, we got a sample memorandum of understanding. And so I wanted, and I emailed that to you, I don't know if you, today, you may have gotten it, may not. But I wanted you to have that information and see if you have questions. I think they pulled this pretty quickly to try and get it for us in order to bring it to the board, because they need this signed before the end of the month. And so asking for the board to authorize me to go ahead, if it is the pleasure of the board to participate in this. And Doug, how much money did this?
It was between $85 and $95 a student that we would have in 7th grade, which were about $274, $275. So we're looking at over $27,000
Per year.
per year.
And that will follow the student. That cohort will be followed throughout their career with us, and we will get that money each year in order to participate in this.
And that's just through their career at Guthrie schools, or will that continue
Well,
into college or
It
Meridian?
will also be in college, and one of the things that they look for is they're trying to determine what produces students that require remediation at the college level. And that is in my opinion, it's probably the greatest indicator of the job that we're doing, and more so even than the ACT or any state testing, is the amount of remediation that has to occur at the college level for college students. Now, that does not take into consideration the students that are not in a college track, but those students will also be monitored on this. And then once they reach the end of their secondary education with us, if they do not enter college, then they would obviously be monitored after that.
So how does that monitoring follow them into college? Who at that point? So it talks about the school data set. So, I mean, I guess how do they track that student once they enter college? Do they have to enter into an agreement with that university?
I think that it still goes back to the Board of Regents, because we have to give a report to you guys, which we're scheduled to this month, didn't get the ACT of our college remediation. That comes from the Board of Regents. So the Board of Regents shares that, I believe, with the K-20.
Yeah, and I don't think, if you're going to University of Tulsa, obviously you're not going to be included and followed But if you're at OU, OSU, any of the state colleges that are under the higher ed board of regents, you will be.
This is the first year for this?
Yes, yes. But Mr. Ogle participated in a similar cohort in Blackwell when he was previously.
And I do believe we've had this before.
Yes.
Several years ago here in Guthrie, one-year cohort.
So the universities would not be considered a third party? Because in here, it looks like we've got some maybe some good safeguards against data being shared with a third party without the district's consent. So, I mean, okay, I'm just trying to understand how this.
And the universities would not receive our information. They would only provide information to the K-20 Center.
Okay.
And the K-20 Center is a data collection point for either the secondary student or the university student in that cohort as they follow through.
Is there a motion on the table?
No, I don't think so.
Make a motion that we authorize the superintendent to proceed with the memorandum of understanding for the K-20 Gear Up for the Future grant.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion, questions? Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 9K, recommendation, consideration, and action upon change order number 1 for Pope Contracting Incorporated at Guthrie Junior High School.
This is an item that we talked about a while back, and we wanted to obtain board approval. This was the drainage modifications that we had to make for our condensate lines to get that out from near the building. And when we discovered during the excavation previous method and felt it was necessary that we have a better method to drain that water.
I make a motion that we approve change order number 1 for Pope Contracting, Inc. at Guthrie Junior High.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 10, proposed executive session for the purpose of discussing employment of personnel, FMLA request, resignation, separation from employment, and transfer of position request. All is set out on the personnel reports. Discussion of extra duty assignments for 2018 to 2019. Discussion on the appointment of an individual for vacant school board seat number 2, and periodic annual evaluation in terms of employment for Dr. Michael Simpson, Superintendent of Schools, disclosure of which information would violate the confidentiality requirements of state and/or federal law, all pursuant to 25 Oklahoma Statute, Section 307, B1 and 7, and 70 Oklahoma Statute, Section 5 through 118. We have a motion to go into executive session.
I make a motion we go into executive session.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, it's time to acknowledge the board's return to open session. Only items in Agenda 10 were discussed in executive session and no votes were taken. This shall constitute the executive session minutes. So agenda item 11, vote on action to set out on the personnel reports. We have a motion.
I move we approve the action set out on the personnel reports.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 12, action upon recommendation of extra duty assignments as listed for 2018 to 2019.
I make a motion that we accept the extra duty assignments as listed for 2018, 2019.
Roll call, please.
I need a second.
Second.
Second, sorry. We have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 13, consideration and action upon superintendent's contract.
I make a motion that we approve the superintendent's contract amendment, excuse me.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 14, recommendation, consideration, and action to accept any resignations offered since the posting of the agenda.
We have one. Joanne Goad. Recommend approval.
I move that we accept the resignation of Joanne Goode.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Agenda item 15, discussion and possible action on new business not known about or could not have been reasonably foreseen at the time of the agenda posting.
We have none.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Smedley.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.